Eurosport live at Monza for the opening Super Racing weekend. This brand new television experience from Eurosport, combining some of Europe's top single-seater, saloon car and sports car racing championships. And one of those categories is the Euro STC, the European Touring Car Championship, providing races for super production and super tourers. We're looking at the first race for the super touring cars from this Monza track. Now it's a pair of races for super touring of 50 kilometres distance each, which is 9 laps of Monza, considerably more of others. And from the front of the grid, Nicola Larini on the left-hand side and Gabriele Tarquini, the poleman for Honda, leading the field away. Very quick starting Alfa in the middle there. That's the white car of, is that Toccacello coming through? Trying to come around the works Alphas. What a start. Surely he's got to get penalised for that one. Toccacello in the number 10 car from 135, 7th on the grid. Jan Nielsen in the Volvo, and Fabrice Walfisch going off outside the first Variante. Walfisch, the ex-Formula 3000 driver in the Honda. Welcome to touring cars, super touring style racing there. Gabriele Tarquini leads from Nicola Larini in the number 2 Works Alpha, or not Works Alpha. We must not say that. They are not Works-supported cars in this or the Super Production Championship. Larini now towing up behind Tarquini, looking to make a move. Third place is Fabrizio Giovanardi, the reigning champion. And Larini neatly done on the brakes, David, no doubting that move at all.
Yes, he came up that straight with a slipstream. He came out of the parabolica at the end there, right behind Tarquini, and he tucked in there until it came towards the end. He popped himself out and out-braked him into the chicane there. Very good move. And you can see now this Honda sandwiched between two Alfa Romeos. I would reckon that they'll try and... and
Tarquini, what on earth happened there? Lost the Honda. Tarquini goes off in a big fashion. Too hard over the curbs, David?
I think so. You could see he hit that curb on as he turned in on the left there, and he just seemed to bounce the car a little bit, and he went in very, very hard indeed. Now then, he's done a fair bit of damage to that car, so I'm not sure how difficult it'll be or how hard it'll be to put that together for the second race.
Well, of course, they have the full length of the GT race to try and work some magic on that car, but meanwhile, it's 1 and 2 for Alfa Romeo, Giovanardi and Larini. Now, will Nicola Larini sit out front and make the reigning champion sit behind him all the way to the flag, or will he tow Fabrizio Giovanardi down the straight and then at the last moment let him go?
I think these two here, they've got a nice lead now out in front, and as long as they don't take each other off, I'm pretty sure their instructions will be race as hard as you want, but don't knock each other off and don't lose the race. So as we can see here, they're going for it big time, and Larini just through into the front. You can see the cars squirming as they're coming out of that chicane there, accelerating from some cars in first, some cars in second, like that really tight chicane in these super touring cars.
Well, you can see how much his teammate lost there, Giovanardi on the outside, and then having to take a deeper, tighter entrance into that first Variante, losing out as Larini took the lead. This is Gianluca De Lorenzi in the BMW, leading the second of the white Alphas. That's Lancialotti in the number 9 machine.
And these cars are diving about all over the place. Down the inside goes the Volvo, and he's got it wrong. And there it goes, out into the gravel trap.
And so too does the Alfa, yeah. That's Jan Nielsen, Flash Nielsen in the 24 car. Look at this, dives to the inside, goes inside. And unfortunately from there, Angelo Lancialotti off in the gravel as well. Well, Jan Nielsen's not coming out of there. Will we see Lancialotti either?
Jan Nielsen, you can see he's well buried in there. There's no point in trying to get out of that. He's not going to go anywhere at all.
Now the grid for the second of the Super Touring races, which we'll be picking up live after these highlights from race 1, is the finishing order reversed. So these two finishing first and second here, Nicola Larini and Fabrizio Giovanardi for Alfa Romeo, will start at the back of the grid, but behind them will be the drivers who failed to finish in the order in which they failed to finish. So Nicola Larini winning there from Fabrizio Giovanardi, outbraked his teammate to take victory. And the Alfa Romeo boys first and second in race 1. Hard to ask for anything more. Colciaggio third in his privateer Audi. Sandro Sardelli fourth in the Nissan Primera. Fabrice Walfisch recovering from that first corner excursion to finish fifth ahead of Gianluca De Lorenzi in the BMW, who was ahead of the BMW, of the Alfa and Volvo clash that we saw. So first blood goes to Ferrari tester, racer, and now Alfa racer Nicola Larini. Let's hear from our winner.
The second race, you're going to be starting from the back of the grid. How do you feel about that? Do you like the idea of the grid changing round and the winner being at the back of the grid? And do you think that you will be able to win?
I think it's not easy to win because Fabrizio will start in front of me, so this means my teammate to overtake. So this is the first important point, a difficult point. And then I don't know, because I have problems with the clutch, and maybe we have to change the clutch. I thought that for me was just 10 meters races, no more, because there was problem the clutch since the start. So in any case, I have to start in the back grid as per the rules.
So Nicola Larini and Fabrizio Giovanardi, first and second in race one for the Alfa Romeo team. How will they do in race two? Find out in a moment. Welcome back to Monza live. Martin Haven and David Leslie preparing for the second race in the FIA Euro Super Touring Championship meeting here at Monza. Part of Eurosport's new initiative, the Super Racing Weekend. Hope you're enjoying it. Certainly we've been enjoying it. It was raining steadily all the way through Friday, but Saturday and Sunday have been bright, warm and sunny, and a lot of Milanese residents coming out to the Monza track to enjoy this opening Super Racing Weekend. And of course those of you who aren't nearby the Monza parklands, hopefully watching it on Eurosport and equally enjoying it. Well, the FIA GT Championship kicking off with a win for Lister, a win in the opening race here in the Super Touring for this man, Nicola Larini, in his Alfa Romeo, from his teammate, the reigning champion Fabrizio Giovanardi. But, as Larini said,
Nicola
clutch
Larini,
problems after race one.
Race. Now you're at the back of the grid for the second race. It's only 9 laps. Can you win?
I think it's really difficult because first I am in front of my teammate, is quick like me, and I have a clutch problem, and I think I have a problem to start. So and I think it will be difficult in any case to keep a lot of position to arrive at the first row in 9 laps.
Thank you, Nicola.
So Larini right at the back of the grid. Look on the right-hand side of your picture. There are the two Alfa Romeos. But at the front grid spot, we are waiting for the 24 car. That's Jan Nielsen, Flash, as he is known, and his Volvo. Now, we saw the Volvo going off in the highlights of race one into the gravel traps as he battled with the number 9 Alfa Romeo, the Conrero racing car of Angelo Lanciolotti. But it looks as though Nielsen's Volvo may not take the start.
At the back of the grid, you're just above your teammate. Do you think that you can win this race?
But it's possible. It was important to come out of the first chicane. I think that will be a big problem. But after, I think it's possible to win.
But the race, it's only 9 laps. You think you might be able to overtake everybody in 9 laps?
I will try to do that. I don't know. I hope so.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
Well, David, this is something that has been tossed around occasionally with Super Touring racing in the British Touring Car Championship, but was never taken up. How would you fancy starting a race of, all right, 9 laps? It's 50 kilometres. I mean, 9 laps of the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit would be a non-starter, but 9 laps here, would you fancy starting at the back and fancy your chances?
I think, having actually done this once before at Donington Park, when they had a race meeting at the end of the season, nothing to do with the championship, we actually did this. One race we started at normal grid positions, and the second one we started reverse order. And yes, it can be done. And seeing how well the Alfa Romeos went this morning, then yes, I'm pretty sure that they can come all the way from the back through to win this race. We can see on the camera, we're just looking there at the Volvo in the pits. We was panning away from it, so it looks like that car's not going to make it onto the grid. Right beside it was the number 4 car of Tarquini, and we're waiting to find out. We think that one might make it onto the grid. There are just a few minutes, couple of minutes to go before it all starts. You can see the people starting to walk away from the grid to clear the grid now before the start. There they all go, so they'll set off on their warm-up lap very shortly. They'll come back. It is a standing start. and then we'll set off. You can see at the very front there that grid position is empty. Jan Nielsen, who should be there in the Volvo number 24, they're obviously having a major problem with that car, and it looks like it'll remain where it is, not go anywhere at all.
Looks as though we're not going to see Enrico Toccacello either in the second Conrero run Alpha, because the number 10 car is in the pit lane, and somebody else being pushed away as well. The number 11 car being pushed to the head of the pit lane, being pushed there, incidentally. That's the Greyhound Motorsport car of Gianluca Roda, his Opel Vectra. And that is just being followed up, driven by Gabriele Tarquini's Honda. So Tarquini's Honda will take the start, it seems, as the warm-up lap finishes. Now, that's very interesting. As soon as they start to clear the grid, everybody's moving up. So the number 10 car is again moving, the Alfa Romeo of Enrico Toccacello. So we look like having at least 3 starters from the pit lane. Jan Nielsen's car not moved yet. I can still... Oh no, I can't see it on the pit apron anymore as I crane around the corner, but there is a bunch of people obscuring, so he may still be there. The field, though, at the moment looks set to be led away by Guido Signari in the Audi A4 Quattro on the left-hand side of the shot, and the man who should line up third place, the BMW on the right there, Antonio Materia. Now, there's going to be obviously some demands on them to make sure that they lead the field thoroughly, and a chance, well, one of the good things perhaps for the slower cars of the reverse grid is a chance for them to be shown live on Eurosport across Europe for their sponsors, if they have any, as the leaders of the race, because although we'll have to watch the progress of Lurini and Giovanardi from the back, we must also watch the guys who are actually leading the race at the same time. So tough job for the director as well as everybody else.
It is. I think it's terrific for the guys who are at the front of this race. They race normally and they're at the back and they don't get too much coverage. And for a change, they're right at the front and they're going to get all the coverage. Couple of things, when this lot sets off, the cars in the pit lane will join them onto the back, so they will start behind the Alfa Romeos. So those 3 cars that were sitting in the pit lane, the Honda, the Alfa Romeo and the Opel, will start behind. What I expected them to do was to come out on a warm-up lap and start on the warm-up lap behind them in order to warm their tyres up, but that hasn't happened. They're still sitting in the pit lane, so it looks like they won't be allowed to go until after the actual green light to start the race. So that's what's going to happen there. So I would think the longer they sat in the pits with their tyre warmers on, the better it'll be for them. They're sitting there for another couple of minutes before they get to actually start. We are hearing at the moment that they're actually going to get Jan Nielsen's Volvo started, so that will push it from 3 cars to 4 cars starting from the pit lane.
That's going to be
it's going to make it even more interesting, because now not at the back of the 2 Alfa Romeos, but once the green light starts, then another 4 cars will join on. We can see the cars lined up there in front of us.
So getting ready to go for the start of this final Super Touring race. There you can see the first of the cars. That's Gianluca Roda's Opel in the pit lane. Behind him, Gabriele Tarquini's Honda. No tyre warmers in evidence, though. Jan Nielsen's car yet to make it to the head of the, or to the tail of that queue at pit out. But Enrico Toccacello's Conrero Run Alpha, car number 10, is there. So we've been told by the team that they're going to try and get Nielsen in via our pits reporter, but it looks as though they have yet to get the car to go. Now, quite what the problem would be, I'm not sure, but with the cars already on the back straight coming up parallel behind the pits on the warm-up lap and all of them weaving furiously, David, I think that the clock has probably run down to 0 now for Nielsen.
Yes, I think they're really struggling. Because he went into the gravel trap on the first race, I would take it that they filled the engine compartment full of stones, and therefore it's probably necessitated an engine change. These things are not the simplest things in the world to change, so they've been working flat out doing that, and if they can get it done in time, then I'm sure they will join on as it turns. But we've got about another 20 or 30 seconds before that happens, and they'll work right up till the very last minute, the last second, to be able to try and get him out there and take part in this race.
Just a quick email in from Pedant's Corner from Dave Andrews of the Liddon Hill Silly Hat Brigade to correct a point I made earlier. The red and yellow striped flag of course, is the slippery surface flag, rather than, strictly speaking, an oil flag. Everybody calls it the oil flag, but it is for anything, any amount of cack on the track that will disrupt the drivers. Jan Nielsen has got the engine going finally. Perhaps he was just biding his time so it didn't cook itself as he comes down the pit road. Our other onboard camera you've already seen with Fabrizio Giovanardi. Hooray! Starts from the front in race 1, but starts from the back in race 2. And boy, I bet that onboard tape will be worth watching all the way through. Hi Monica, the Alfa Romeo team boss, with everything crossed for the start of what's going to be a very novel experiment for all of these drivers. And as you say, one of the TOCA shootouts featured a reverse grid start. I've forgotten all about that. They're not going to flag people off here halfway through the race for being at the back of the queue, though, I don't think, either.
No, they're not, but this is going to be very interesting at the first corner. These guys are going to be first in there, and they're going to have the really quick guys pushing it hard from the back to try and get through to the front. So the first corner will be very exciting. I expect to see at least one or more cars fall off on the first corner, whether it be just over excitement on their own part or whether being pushed from behind by the cars trying to make a good start. What the guys need to do is get through the first corner. There's a 5-second board being hung up. 5 seconds until the lights come on, then they'll turn to green and the race will start. There's the lights on.
The Audi on the left, now the front car on the grid, and the BMW alongside. Antonio Materia gets a good launch, as you expect from the BMW, but the A4 Quattro gets away nicely. One of the cars further back really smoking the hides, but it will be the BMW that leads. The Audi getting swamped, and now what should happen is that the entire field should start to be able to overtake everybody in front of them. Into the corner goes Paulo Zadra in second place, and carnage through goes into that gap, goes the number 3 car, as off goes Eric Carroll, the Frenchman, former multiple French Super Touring champion, off in the weeds, or in the gravel traps, as the pit lane starters come through at the back of the field there, and already the works, I'm not going to say that one any more times, already the number 1 and 2 Alfa Romeos working their way up. A quick burst there from Fabrizio Giovanardi. Tarquini ahead of the rest of that group. That's the pole man, or the man who started at the front. That's the number 8 Audi of Massimiliano Pigoli, in fact, Roberto Colciaggio's teammate, who was smoking heavily there. But the number 3 Nord Auto Alfa Romeo of the Italian lady, Romana Bernardoni, went through a big gap early on and moved up heavily. Into the gravel goes number 20, Gianluca De Lorenzi's BMW. David, you predicted carnage, and that was with a capital K for carnage, because De Lorenzi has gone off there, and that's the second of the Lesmos, and there's no coming back from there.
I think he was very much pushed off there, and you can see
that's the number 3 car. Now that was Romana Bernardoni. She, as I said, she went through a gap when everybody ran wide at the first corner and picked up 3 or 4 places, but she's gone off somewhere, or she's got caught up. Look, she hit the back of the Audi and she's immediately blown the radiator, and so that is why Bernardoni went off there. Now then, let's try and get this slightly. There's Jan Nielsen and some parked cars. So Nielsen out of the race, Bernardoni out of the race, and I think we will probably find that that is a immediate result of either overheating or breaking an oil line, that the car has just died on her within half a lap. So she's out, unfortunately, having picked up a couple of spots. But I noticed very well up the order. Look, Fabrice Valfish there in the Honda right behind him is one of the Nord Auto Alphas. And as they come across the line for the first time, Roberto Colciaggio leads in the Audi. Zadra in second place. Materia in third place, still in the BMW that started on the outside of the second row of the grid. Nicola Marini in fourth place as Colciaggio goes through the chicane. He will get penalised for that. Roberto Colciaggio will play no part in this race as far as we're concerned from now on, because he will get a black flag penalty and a drive-through stop and go. So Nicola Marini up to third place already by his own superb driving, and now goes around the outside of Colciaggio, who's still not back up to speed, having missed out the Variante Gucci. But where is Fabrizio Giovanardi? There is Fabrice Valfish in the Honda, the red and white machine, moving around on the left-hand side of the picture, and there is Giovanardi right behind him. Gabriele Tarquini, 10th place at the moment, 8.4 seconds behind the then race leader Roberto Colciaggio. Zadra leads the number 15 car, run by the Max team of Paolo Zadra. But Nicola Marini, wow, David, a lap from back of the grid to second place, and now halfway around lap 2, he's pushing hard, but then they are long laps, as we mentioned earlier, and he's only got 9 of them to get to the front and stay there, so you can't really mess about.
No, not really. All through this weekend, there's been 3 cars that have been head and shoulders above the rest. It's the 2 Nord Auto Alphas and the Yas Honda, and you can see now we're on the second lap, and Larini's through into the lead. It was always going to happen. These guys were going to get to the front. I know at the beginning of the race they were playing down their chances, but there was nothing was going to stop these cars getting to the front. And even as we look now, we can see a bit further back, we can see two Hondas. Mr. Tarquini, who started right out to the pit lane, he's now into the whole bunch here at the back of this lot, and I would think he'll be following it through, and I would expect him to be up to third by the end of this 9-lap race.
Well, he's passed Roberto Colciaggio for the lead. Colciaggio's standing start lap was 2 minutes 8. How far back Larini was it took him another 3 seconds to get a full standing start lap done. He was 3 seconds further back from the start line than Colciaggio was in the beginning. But now, 1 minute 59.0. Roberto Colciaggio's second lap, 2 minutes 2. No wonder he's quick. Fabrice Valfish, 1:59.4. Now in third place. Behind him, Fabrizio Giovanardi, 1:59.7 in fourth place. And there is Gabriele Tarquini, who has now gone from 12th place to 8th place on lap 2, and still more positions to make up. So Nicola Larini leads, having started effectively at the back of the grid, bar 3 or 4 cars that started, 4 in fact from the pit lane, now leads the race. 2 laps of the 9 are completed, and they are out of the second of the Variantes, the Roggia, and heading into the first of the Curva di Lesmo. There is the number 9 Conrero Alfa Romeo, the 2 white cars run by the Conrero team. Conrero you may well know as a rally team from many years, and now taking up the racing challenge on an international or a European level at least, with their pair of Alfa Romeo 156s. That's Angelo Lanciolotti, and there you can see his teammate Enrico Toccacello, who did start from the pit lane and has found himself in trouble there at the Variante Goodyear, the first corner after the long fast Monza front straight. Gabriele Tarquini still motoring on strongly. He's ahead of Lanciolotti now, up into 5th place, picked up another 3 spots in half a lap there. Fabrizio Giovanardi is ahead of him, and Gio looking in the mirror because he's got Tarquini right behind him. In fact, he's in a Honda sandwich, the reverse of race 1 where Tarquini was in an Alfa sandwich, and Tarquini diving down the inside into the first of the Lesmo. Giovanardi's onboard camera shows us the Honda is safely through. In fact, it wasn't at all, was it? That was in the Parabolica. That's a pretty brave move under braking as well.
Yeah, you see Tarquini now is starting out of the pit lane, which is a long way behind the rest of the cars when they started, and he's picked up through the rest of the field. He's now past Giovanardi, and he's up into 4th place. His teammate, I'm pretty sure, will move over and not give him too hard a time, which will leave him with Colciaggio to get past. We've got the fast guys up the front now. We've got the first 3 we would expect with the 2 Alphas and Tarquini, and then Walfish and Colciaggio I would expect to be 4th and 5th. And I reckon by the end of the race it'll probably be that way around. Giovanardi seems to be struggling a little bit at the moment. I would expect him to be a little bit quicker than Colciaggio, moving forward a little bit. But more debris around the circuit. You see the marshal picking up a bumper belonging to somebody. And Walfish doesn't look as though he's going to make life as easy as possible for Tarquini.
Yes, he's not playing the team game quite yet, is he? Tarquini's going to have to force his way through.
But he'll do that right now, I'm pretty sure. He'll be through at this next corner, as we can watch and see 2 cars. There we are. Yes, Tarquini is now through, and he's into 3rd place. But slowed Walfish a little bit, and Giovanardi's right behind, knocking on the door, waiting for his chance to come through. So I reckon Tarquini, who's been the fastest man here all weekend in testing, he managed to repair the front end of that car. As you've seen earlier, it was a very big accident he did, and I was very sceptical as if he could repair such a massive dent in that car. But they've done it, and they've done it extremely well.
Well, there is where the red bumper came from. That's the number 12 Racing Box Audi of Sergio Sambataro, and he'd already lost it the previous lap in conflict with somebody.
You noticed
back in
when that car was spinning there and it started to accelerate very quickly, only the rear wheels were spinning and not the front wheels. Now Audis I thought were 4-wheel drive. Maybe we've got some way of disconnecting the front wheels for this super fast Monza circuit, I'm not too sure, but certainly it was giving something away there when an Audi was accelerating with only rear wheels.
And very good point, and one of our email correspondents asked us, are the Audis and the rear-wheel drive cars being penalised for having a nominally better traction system? Yes, they are indeed in terms of weight, and if I'd brought my rule book with me I could have told you exactly what they were. I think the Audis carry an extra 80 kilos in respect of their rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive configuration as opposed to front-wheel drive cars. Now if you disconnect it and have a two-wheel drive Audi, I don't know quite how the weight changes. I think you get back to being a front-wheel drive car if it's front-wheel drive, or rear-wheel drive it's rear-wheel drive. But As David points out, stop talking, Martin. Gabriele Tarquini has passed Roberto Colciaggio. Surprised not to see notification of a penalty for Colciaggio for straight lining the first chicane. Really would have thought they would have done that.
I think what happened when he went through there, he did slow up sufficient to let the car who was in front of him back in front of him and try and regain his position where he was. Some of the other cars we've seen in the GT racing earlier on were certainly going through the chicane and coming out the other side as fast as they could to try and gain a place. And it was those people that have been given the penalties, the 10-second stop-and-go penalties. He was playing the game by slowing down and trying to slot back into that right position.
So Nicola Lorini, fastest lap of the race, now going to Tarquini as he goes quicker even than Lorini. And we're being given notice of a penalty for car number 12, which is the Audi we just saw spinning, so no problem for Roberto Colciaggio. Now Fabrice Valfish, perhaps he was just having a practice blocking attempt, seeing how wide a Jas Honda really could be made when Gabriele Tarquini, his teammate, came up behind, because where it really counts, of course, is whether he can hold up Giovanardi. But was that Giovanardi just easing past him there? We saw as we picked up the onboard picture.
No, we can just see him still in front. Yeah. And I think he'll stay there. Walfish has got a hang of this car. As the weekend's gone along, he's got better and better. He was certainly struggling on the first day when it was really wet around here, but he's picked his speed up as the whole weekend's gone along, and he's right up there now, dicing with the Nord Auto Alphas, and doing an excellent job for his first time in a Super Touring car.
So Nicola Lorini leads them across the line, 1.654 seconds ahead of Gabriele Tarquini. Roberto Colciaggio in third, Fabrice Valfish in fourth. There is Tarquini with the headlights on. His last lap, 56.5, as opposed to a 156.5, 156.5 for Lorini, 156.0 for Tarquini. So Tarquini not quite on his lap record pace yet, or still rather, but just a tenth of a second away, and still pushing very hard. Now, at what stage will Tarquini's tyres start to show the efforts of all that hard work, and will it be harder for him than for Lorini, who has also come pretty much through the back of through the whole field?
I think it's pretty much the same for both of them. They've both been pushing hard right from the very beginning, having to start at the back of the grid. As long as they can keep off the dirty part of the circuit, not pick up any rubber on the rear of the car in order to make the rear very slippy, then I'm sure the tyres will be very consistent. These tyres, they've all got exactly the same tyres from Michelin, so there's no advantage for anyone in the tyre stakes.
Nicola Lorini, winner of race 1 in the Euro Super Touring Championship at Monza, leads race 2 from Gabriele Tarquini. Now, this is the situation they were in when Tarquini spun off the track in the high-speed Lesmos. No, it wasn't, in fact, was it? It was in the Ascari chicane in race 1. Tarquini's car heavily damaged. It's been repaired. He started from the pit lane and has now driven through the field, as have all these front runners who started well back, because the grid for the second race was determined by the finishing order of the first race, only starting in reverse order of speed. They've dispensed with the slower cars, most of whom are drivers in the amateur category, which is a separate point scoring opportunity within the main championship. And no surprise really with not just the calibre of the cars, but the calibre of the drivers here as well. Even non-experienced touring car men like F3000 ace Fabrice Valfish tries to get past Roberto Colciaggio. David throws his hands up in disgust that he wasn't keeping his eye on the main game, which is keeping Fabrizio Giovanardi behind. But in the end, somehow David scrabbled through the Variante Goodyear there and held off Giovanardi as well.
He really made life very difficult for himself, because when he came up the straight, he dived to the wrong side. To try and go around the outside into such a tight chicane is a real nightmare, and he left the door wide open for Giovanardi to try and dive up the inside, and he just didn't have his eye on the ball, as you said. He's been a bit slow through that chicane there, the second chicane, and that's now left Giovanardi a bit of space, and he's touring the inside. So Wolfish, in his efforts to try and get past Colciaggio, has managed to lose a place, and he's learning. I mean, this is his first race weekend in the Super Touring Championship, and it is a very tough championship. People say you've got to be very quick to be in this. People come from Formula 3000. We've seen people come from Formula 1 before into Super Touring, and it's not as easy as you think it is. It is very, very difficult. He's discovering it's difficult. He made a small mistake, and now all of a sudden he's down another place.
Well, very much what he's been used to in Formula 3000 over the last seasons, where He's had 3 years of racing, almost identical cars in almost identical conditions. Now, interesting there, Giovanardi looking down. He was smoking as he came onto the straight there. He's looking in the mirror. He's looking down, well, down by the gear lever at the transmission tunnel. Now, I wasn't sure whether that was oil smoke or maybe just tyre rub, but I don't know, did that look to you like he was checking something?
He could be checking something. Down there in the centre of the car is the anti-roll bars. These cars have got adjustable anti-roll bars, and he can adjust it from the centre of the car. Here we see the lead for the race, and you can see Tarquini's done it right. He's gone down the inside, not the outside. That's the correct way to do it. And you can hear the cheer from the crowd as he goes through. So he's come from the back, even from the pit lane he's come to now to lead this race. That's a fantastic drive. He's done superb times, and his times are just so much quicker. 0.8 of a second quicker on the last lap round there than what Larini was. So if he can get himself a bit of a gap, he will simply pull away from Larini and make this race all his own. But remember, it is a very short race. It's only 9 laps. We've now completed 7 of them. So there's only 2 laps to go, including this one.
So 155.6 compared to 156.4 the last lap for Tarquini versus Larini. That's why he's caught him. That's why he's been able to pass him. And that's why, frankly, all things being equal, he should be able to drive away. All he's got to be doing is to be careful of those curves. And David's shaking his head. He is using a lot of curve, but then Larini is right behind him, benefiting a fraction from the hole in the air that Tarquini's car is passing, which allows Larini's Alfa to travel marginally quicker and, in fact, helps slow down Tarquini's car in a straight line, whereas the reverse was true when Tarquini was drafting Larini, when the quicker Honda was going even quicker in comparison to the Alfa Romeo. But not sure that Larini's going to be able to fight back. He may well hang on there, David, within a car length or two in that little hole in the air, in that bubble, but well, he hasn't got a last lap slingshot opportunity left, has he? Because only the Parabolica, and that's not really a great place for making a pass.
No, he's. You can see now Tarquini's already stretching that lead just a little bit. Tarquini's still got his headlights on. He had them on all the way through the field to let people know he was coming. Now he's got to the front. It'd be a good idea if he switched them off. Then the alternator would have to do a little bit less work, and the engine would be probably about 1 brake horsepower more efficient. But he's out there giving what he can. He's watching his mirrors, I'm sure, to make sure Larini doesn't come back at him at any point. But he's driving a very good race. He's using all the circuit, as we've seen slightly earlier. He's using every curve, every inch of the curve, right up to the gravel traps. He's trying his hardest. He knows this circuit extremely well. This is one of his favourite places. And I'm sure he was absolutely distraught at the mistake earlier on when he threw it into the barrier and destroyed the front. And probably like me, he thought it couldn't be repaired in time. But the guys at Yas have done a fantastic job putting it all back together. And you can see him now. He's out there through that second chicane and doing a fantastic job. He's easing himself away all the time from Larini.
Lap 9 of line 9 around Monza. Gabriele Tarquini leads Nicola Larini in the second Euro STC race of this 2001 championship. The Honda fastest in practice. An uncharacteristic miscue by Tarquini, dropping it into the barriers in race 1. He failed to finish there, didn't score anything, but he will now take victory. Nicola Larini, winner in the first race, will take second place, all other things being equal, in his Nord Auto run Alfa Romeo. And again, as last year, it'll be Honda versus Alfa all the way through. Just very quickly, David, Richard Lomax of Newport, South Wales wanted to know what kind of horsepower are these cars developing in super touring guys?
They're about 300 horsepower, just a fraction over depending on who you talk to and what they say.
So finally, 300 brake horsepower of Honda power, probably a fraction more than the Alfa it would seem, because the Honda is very quick indeed. Takes Gabriele Tarquini to victory in the second race of the opening round of the European Super Touring Car Championship for 2001. Nicola Larini on the podium for the second time. First place and second place for him. Roberto Colciaggio takes third in his Audi. Fabrizio Giovanardi, second in race 1, will take fourth place. And Fabrice Valfish, fifth place for him. The ex-Formula 3000 man, I think, doing a good job keeping his nose clean and learning, I'm sure, an awful lot in this opening race of the Euro STC. So in sixth place, coming across the line some 20 seconds back, is the number 18 Nissan, Sandro Sardelli. He's another one of the amateur drivers, in fact the first of the amateur drivers across the line, and the rest of them streaming in. And an interesting concept to start the second race in reverse order of the first, but it didn't seem to separate the fast guys from the slow guys for too long. They worked their way through very quickly indeed, and in the end the speed of qualifying pretty much being reflected in the result here in this second race, despite reversing the grid. And the Yasport Honda team will be very happy indeed with their performance between races. I think they're as much as they are with Tarquini's in race 2.
Yes, they've done a phenomenal job to get that car put back together. As we've seen earlier, they had hit that tyre wall very hard indeed and really smashed the front of it. So they worked with a lot of spares and a lot of bits and pieces to put it all back together. Fantastic to come from the pit lane all the way through to the front and lead the race.
Gabriele Tarquini wins race 2 at Monza in the European Super Touring Car Championship. The man who was drafted in by the Honda squad to help Peter Cox in his battle with the Alfa Romeos in last year's Euro STC, which we saw live on Eurosport. And again this year on Eurosport, the Euro STC forming part of our Super Racing weekend. And not just the Super Tourers, but also the Super Production cars. We'll be seeing them on track in just a moment. And David, that brings us back to a number of correspondents who brought in the questions about the change in touring car racing that's sweeping through Europe at the moment. The British Touring Car Championship has gone away from a 2-litre Super Touring formula, as we've seen these cars here, towards a sort of super-duper Group N version, an almost production saloon. In fact, there's a slightly mixed field. We've got the super production cars here, which really are super Group N cars, much more related to showroom cars than the Super Tourers. There are 2 or 3 different sets of regulations sort of manoeuvring around in saloon car racing in Europe to try and be accepted as the Europe-wide standard by the FIA. Now, a lot of machinations behind the scene, but super production seems at the moment to be gaining a little bit of headway.
I think it is. They had to change the Super Touring from what it was. It was just got too expensive. And all the different countries have put together different packages to try and move to that new Super Production series. And the FIA, the governing body, won't make their mind up as to which way to go. So they're simply sitting on the fence at the moment, waiting for to see which is the strongest series. And I would think they will sit and watch that, and whichever one is the strongest, that is the way they will make those rules. So we have those rules now in all the different countries and throughout Europe. But as you said, they're all slightly different. We have some rules here, and we will see the race fairly shortly. As to the super production race here we have in Europe, and it's very strong. There's a lot of manufacturers coming into it, and they're doing that throughout Europe in the different countries. And if we can get them all together in one place, then I'm sure we'll have a fantastic championship.
Is Gabriele Tarquini then our winner?
Gabriele, you crashed this morning. You started from the pits, and yet you still won the race. That's amazing. How did you do that?
Yeah, it was amazing, because I start not last on the grid, but I start from the pit, so I lost more time, and I start really 15 seconds behind the leader. But it was great. I think the traffic was not so bad. I think, I mean, this is the best track to be there, especially for me, because overtaking is not really difficult, but it was great. It's never happened to me to start from the box and to win the race.
Does that make up for crashing this morning, that you're the winner?
Yeah, I lose a lot of points, especially because my car shows that in this track was the best car on the track, but like I said yesterday on the press conference, sometimes the best car don't win the race, and this is happened.
Congratulations, Gabriele.
Yes, congratulations indeed, and also I think we can't reiterate strongly enough how much of a part in that the Yasport mechanics played, rebuilding the car between the races. Okay, they had the full length of the GT race, and they wouldn't have done it probably in 20 minutes, but still, Tarquini never started from the pits and won a race. Well, everybody else, I think, starting from the back, the fastest drivers, probably helped him in that endeavour. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have been top 6, maybe even top 4, but probably not able to rack up a maximum point score from that race. As it is, Nicola Larini is the championship leader with a win and a second place, and the Italian, who was runner-up in third place in last year's championship, wasn't he, behind Peter Cox in the Honda, who was the runner-up, is currently leading the point standings for the Nord Auto Alpha team. We'll be seeing Peter Cox, last year's Super Touring Championship runner-up, in the Super Production race. The car's about to come out onto the grid for the final live race in this first Super Racing weekend. So Gabriele Tarquini winning the first race for the second race, rather, of the first Super Touring weekend of the season, and the Super Tours as well as the Super Production cars will be part of the Eurosport Super Racing weekends throughout the season. We move next to Brno in the Czech Republic. That's round 2 of the series, but before we get there, to a very different setup.
Nicola Larini, you've had a first and a second place today, but you still look disappointed.
Yes, because lose the race at 2 laps to the end, it's not nice. And but generally, I'm in the leader in the championship, so this is important for the next races. And I can say just the Honda have a fantastic engine, especially for this racetrack. For me, it was difficult to try to maintain the position. Was easy to win if I start in front with the normal rules, but I wasn't in the same level like Gabriele, because he started from the pit and I was the last on the racetrack, so we were on the same level of starting grid. At the end I had problems with the clutch. There was a problem in downshifting, but I'm happy to finish the race in any case.
You started from 16th and then you moved your way up into the lead. Were all the cars in front of you a problem?
There was a big catastrophe in second and the first Lesmo, and I tried to overtake everywhere. At the end, he was already, I think, in 5th position the first lap, so this means I did a good job.
Thank you, Nicola.
A big catastrophe for some drivers in the first Lesmos, that's for sure, but Larini kept his nose clean, as all the leaders knew they had to do as they worked their way up through the field of the reverse grid for race 2 in the European Super Touring Car Championship. And as he said, the win and second place score puts him firmly atop the championship. In second place will be his teammate, the reigning champion Fabrizio Giovanardi, with a second and a 4th place. That will outscore Gabriele Raffanelli. Where did that come from? Tarquini's single win and 0 points from race 1. Well, the reports of the race being phoned home and faxed home from the grandstands and from the press room. Let's catch up now with Roberto Colciaggio.
2 third places on your home track. You happy?
Yeah, I'm happy because there was too much different on the straight, and the Honda and the Alpha was a lot of quicker, but also if I make a little mistake on the first lap, that I was first on the braking point, but there was nothing to do because the Honda and the Alpha, they were really quicker.
This is your home track. Do you think that you and the Audi will be able to compete with the Alfa Romeo and the Honda on the other tracks?
Like I always say, this and the next one is the worst race for us, because they are a quick race, and I hope I try to do my best every time. And did you see that you saw that the race, like Tarquini make the first race, always something happens, so we try to do the best, and let's see what's coming on.
Well done, Roberto, thank you.
So Colciaggio in the Alpha, living with it on these fast circuits, and Brno, he figures, will be another one where the all-wheel drive system will not help and the weight will be a severe penalty. And David, on the high-speed blinds of Monza, you can't argue with that as a logical conclusion, can you?
No, it's right. Haven't seen this car and raced against it before with Roberto on long straights. He certainly does suffer, and we were able to pull away from him on long straights. But when it comes to the tighter corners, then yes, the four-wheel drive is tremendous. The braking is very good. Off a standing start, the car is very, very good. So there are good things for it as well.
more the Italian national anthem rings out over the podium at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. This time for the Sport team and for driver Gabriele Tarquini, winner of race 2 in the European Super Touring Car Championship. Roberto Colciaggio, now Nicola Larini receive their trophies. And finally, Spider-Man Gabriele Tarquini, the winner of an interesting second race. And that experiment will be continued throughout the season. The drivers a little bit wary of it before the start, but like all other races in rules in racing, you've just got to get on with it or not partake. And so that will be a regular feature of the Euro STC weekends. Race 1 in normal qualifying order, race 2 reverse decision from race 1.